everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
Deadpool the Superstar. Chapter 63. Chapter 63. Thank you for taking time out of saving Hell's Kitchen to kick me some time ago. Matt Murdock had taken on a young apprentice. The boy went by the nickname Blind Spot. Blind Spot was an undocumented immigrant who had come to the United States with his mother. They lived quietly in Chinatown, surviving in the shadows like countless others who were afraid of attracting attention. Despite his circumstances, Blind Spot possessed a strong sense of justice. Using a self-developed invisibility suit and some basic martial arts skills, he occasionally acted as a vigilante in Chinatown. However, when Matt first saw him fight, he immediately realized the harsh truth. Blind Spot's martial arts skills were limited. Without the invisibility suit, he could barely fight 3 to 5 ordinary men at best. For street-level criminals, that was enough. But in the world of superheroes, assassins, and criminal organizations, those skills were nowhere near sufficient. Matt had begun training him personally. Every day he taught Blind Spot new techniques, correcting his stance, strengthening his reflexes, and guiding him toward becoming a better fighter. At the same time, Matt was also investigating a dangerous organization in Chinatown. The Church of the Hand. A violent cult with deep ties to the criminal underworld. Between mentoring Blind Spot, investigating the Church of the Hand, and maintaining his nightly patrols protecting Hell's Kitchen, Matt's schedule had become brutally overwhelming. He was stretched to his limit. Then one day, Deadpool appeared. Matt had an idea. Deadpool was chaotic, unpredictable, and morally questionable. But he was also effective. So Matt decided to pay Deadpool a small investigative fee to follow a lead connected to a suspicious priest tied to the case. It really was a small payment. Matt never intended for Deadpool to do anything drastic. In fact, he had specifically warned him beforehand, no killing. Under any circumstances. Deadpool had accepted the job. Deadpool killed the priest anyway. Even worse. Matt hadn't even paid him yet. This lunatic had killed someone without even receiving his commission. Matt's anger boiled inside him. This bastard. The light bulb exploded. Glass shattered across the room. The apartment plunged into darkness. Deadpool immediately clutched his head in dramatic horror. You broke my light bulb. He pointed at the ceiling like a victim filing a lawsuit. That bulb costs at least $1,000. Matt ignored him completely. His baton sliced through the air again with a sharp whistle. Deadpool sighed. All right. If you want to fight, we'll fight. He stepped sideways, smoothly dodging the strike. Instead of pulling out his usual twin katanas, Deadpool reached down and drew the small dagger strapped to his calf. His tone became slightly more serious. But first, let's clarify something. The evidence I found was already given to you before I killed him. That means the job ended there. Deadpool shrugged. The killing afterwards was just personal revenge. He tilted his head mockingly. So please, mister, don't flatter yourself. Before he even finished speaking, Deadpool had already lunged forward. His movement was eerily fast. Almost unnatural. In truth, Deadpool had already predicted this confrontation. After accepting Matt's job and then killing the priest, he knew exactly what would happen. Matt Murdock. The ultimate Boy Scout with a strict no-kill rule. Of course Matt would assume the priest's death was his fault. And of course Matt would come looking for him. Deadpool had even spent several days jumping between different timelines partly to avoid attention. But he hadn't expected Matt to be this stubborn. Half a month later, and the guy was still waiting in his house. The dagger collided with Matt's baton. Sparks burst in the dark living room. The metal impact echoed sharply. Matt's voice was cold. What do you think you're doing? Dispensing justice. Deadpool smirked. Isn't that what you do? Matt snapped back. This is vigilantism, Wade. Deadpool clapped slowly. Is this little Matt's ethics lecture? He tilted his head with a mischievous grin. Should we bring that kid you're protecting here? Maybe he'd enjoy hearing how lawyer Matt plans to defend the priest who abused him. Matt didn't respond verbally. He spun his body and kicked forward. His boot struck Deadpool square in the face. Deadpool staggered back several steps. Not the face. Matt's voice carried suppressed anger. Your actions cannot erase that child's trauma. Deadpool rubbed his nose. Then he snorted. Killing him won't erase it. But throwing him in prison will. Matt answered immediately. Prison allows him to live and repent. It allows the victim to testify. It gives justice a process. Matt stepped forward. But what you did? You took away not only the criminal's life. You also took away that child's right to watch justice be served. For a moment, Deadpool fell silent. Then something unexpected happened. Deadpool suddenly bowed deeply. I understand. His tone became strangely sincere. That was my mistake, Matt. Matt froze. Completely stunned. Admitting fault. Was this really Wade Wilson? Deadpool straightened up. Next time. His voice rang loudly. Next time I'll bring the criminal directly to the victim. So the kid can watch the judgment happen personally. Matt's baton flew again instantly. Deadpool blocked it with his knife. Matt shouted back. He should face the judgment of the law, Wade. Deadpool grabbed Matt's incoming punch mid-motion. You're wrong. His voice turned sharp. The law is like a promise from your ex-girlfriend. It sounds beautiful. But in the end it always leaves you bleeding. Matt reacted instantly. Before Deadpool could trap his hand, Matt twisted his wrist and reversed the grip. His leg swept forward. Deadpool lost his balance. Matt spoke firmly. The evidence you gave me could have put him in prison for 10 years. Isn't that enough? But just as Deadpool began falling, his body twisted unnaturally. As if pushed by invisible force. A flash of silver appeared. Matt's waist was cut open. A thin line of blood appeared. Deadpool shrugged casually. 10 years. That's really comforting. He added sarcastically. Just like the little boy who will now instinctively cover himself every time he sees a priest for the rest of his life. Deadpool had secretly used telekinetic power to cheat during the fall. Matt couldn't see it. But he still felt the danger. Matt stepped back, clutching his wound. But his voice remained firm. A criminal record follows someone for life. Deadpool laughed coldly. A criminal record. He repeated the phrase slowly. That's such a warm idea. Like putting a do not touch sign on an open wound. Matt tried to argue further. But Deadpool cut him off. Let it go, Matt. You know you can't win against me. Just like you can't win against Frank. Frank Castle. The Punisher. Matt was silent. Deadpool spoke calmly. Maybe you'll keep your ideals forever. Maybe someday you'll become like us. But one thing is certain. We will never become like you. Matt finally spoke. Killing doesn't solve problems. Deadpool answered immediately. It solves the people who create problems. You'll become another problem. Deadpool shrugged. I was already a problem. After saying that, he pulled out a glow stick, snapped it, and tossed it onto the floor. Soft green light filled the room. Deadpool noticed the dark stain on Matt's suit. The blood blended almost perfectly with the red fabric. He tilted his head. My apologies, mister, I accidentally opened your packaging. After the fight, Matt's anger had cooled. He had landed one satisfying kick on Deadpool's face. That was enough punishment. He knew the truth. Deadpool had not fought seriously. If he had, Deadpool would have used his swords. And that slash wouldn't have merely grazed his waist. Matt understood something else too. Even with his enhanced senses. Even with Stick's brutal training. Even with years of combat experience. He still couldn't beat Deadpool. Deadpool's knife was simply too fast. Too fast even for Matt's superhuman hearing and reflexes to track. Then Matt spoke suddenly. Deadpool blinked. Matt touched the stubble on the exposed half of his handsome face. Advertisement model. Deadpool froze. Then exploded. You blind man who can't even see his own face dares to insult my looks. Matt chuckled softly. Deadpool shouted angrily. When I figure out how to fix my face, I'll show you what the sexiest man in the world looks like. Matt replied calmly. He walked past Deadpool toward the door. Then paused. His voice was quiet. So quiet that it was unclear whether he was speaking to Deadpool. Or to himself. Next time. Don't do this. Deadpool shrugged casually. Goodbye, mister. Then he grinned. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule saving Hell's Kitchen, just to come kick me. Chapter 64 to 68, Chapter 64, Dirty Sports. 1336 words. Daredevil left. Without taking a single cloud with him. The apartment suddenly became silent again. Deadpool stared at the closed door for a few seconds, then dramatically collapsed onto the sofa like a defeated actor. From beneath his back, he pulled out a thick wad of U. He began counting them slowly. His voice echoed lazily through the room. $1,000. Deadpool leaned back happily. The original commission was only $400. That means... He waved the bills proudly. $600 profit for a broken light switch. He slapped his thigh. I hit the jackpot. This was actually one of the biggest reasons Deadpool hadn't taken the fight with Daredevil seriously. Deadpool understood people like Matt very well. Matt Murdock. Former honest citizen. Current top-tier superhero celebrity of Hell's Kitchen. A man with morals carved into his bones. Deadpool knew that if Matt didn't land at least a few punches, he would never feel comfortable accepting the evidence Deadpool had already handed over. And Deadpool was generous enough to help him achieve emotional balance. Deadpool looked around the room. The apartment was messy. Very messy. Like a small tornado had moved in permanently. Deadpool scratched his chin. Then he pulled out his phone. Let's see who's available. He scrolled through his contacts for a moment. Soon, he locked onto a familiar name. Deadpool grinned. He pressed the call button. The phone rang. Then hello, Wade. A familiar voice answered. Deadpool's tone immediately turned sugary sweet. Hi Yukio. On the other end, Yukio sounded exhausted. What do you want? Her mood clearly wasn't good. Earlier that day, she and Negasonic Teenage Warhead had attempted to track down Colossus. Unfortunately, they were caught again. Deadpool clicked his tongue sympathetically. Little Yukio, your voice sounds unhappy. His voice lowered mysteriously. Filled with temptation. Do you want to come over and participate in a dirty, sweaty, and exciting activity with Uncle Deadpool? He continued dramatically. It's an activity normally done by adults. And it will help you forget all your previous unhappiness. Yukio answered immediately. Deadpool wasn't discouraged. Come on, don't refuse so quickly. I have plenty of tools here. Sticky ones. Hard ones. Fluffy ones. You can pick whatever you like. Yukio suddenly interrupted him. Her voice became serious. I'm not helping you clean your house. Deadpool froze. How did you know? Yukio sighed. Because you already tricked me once. Her voice became slightly resentful. I'm not a crow. I won't fall for the same fox trick twice. She still remembered the last time this happened. About half a year ago. Deadpool had said almost the exact same thing to her. At the time, Yukio had blushed instantly. But she already knew Deadpool's personality. So she was preparing to refuse politely. Unfortunately, Negasonic Teenage Warhead overheard the conversation. And she exploded. Deadpool. Cheating on her. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. She immediately announced she would go too. Deadpool didn't care at all. In fact, he became even more excited. 3 people. One must be my teacher. The more the merrier. He shouted happily over the phone. Then the truth was revealed. The sticky things were cleaning liquids. The hard things were brooms and mops. The fluffy things were cleaning cloths. Under Deadpool's enthusiastic supervision, Yukio and Negasonic cleaned his entire house. From floor to ceiling. And their reward? 2 Mexican burritos. And an unwanted flying kiss. Yukio still remembered that day vividly. Which was why she immediately hung up. Deadpool stared at the silent phone. He sighed deeply. Kids these days. No sense of adventure. He stretched lazily. If no one wants to clean, I'll just sleep. Deadpool flopped backward onto the sofa. Within seconds he was asleep. Meanwhile, across the city, a shadow moved swiftly across the night skyline. The figure swung through the air between tall buildings like a phantom. Using momentum and steel cables, he advanced rapidly. That figure was Daredevil. Matt Murdock. And no, it wasn't Spider-Man. Although the movement looked similar. Daredevil's billy club contained a hidden steel cable measuring 18. Each baton held 9.1 meters of cable. By hooking the cable onto railings, pipes, or rooftops, Matt could swing through the city just like Spider-Man. But compared to Spider-Man, the difference was enormous. Spider-Man could stick webs to almost anything. Sometimes even to objects that logically shouldn't support his weight. Matt, however, needed real anchor points. If there were no suitable structures nearby, he had to land. Another limitation was his body. Matt's physical abilities were enhanced by his senses. But they were still far below Spider-Man's superhuman strength. Swinging through the city consumed huge amounts of energy. Because of this, Daredevil rarely traveled long distances using the cables. But tonight the situation was urgent. His destination was Chinatown. A message from Blind Spot had just arrived. The Church of the Hand was under attack. The attackers? A deadly ninja assassin organization. One of Daredevil's oldest enemies. Ironically, one of Daredevil's ex-girlfriends, Elektra, had once been a member of that very group. The attack had a clear reason. The leader of the Church of the Hand, a man known as 10 Fingers, had stolen mystical power from the Hand. This wasn't the first conflict between the two factions. Daredevil knew exactly how dangerous the Hand was. And Blind Spot was still a rookie. Without his invisibility suit, he was basically an ordinary fighter with basic combat training. The situation was dangerous. Matt fired his billy club again. The cable latched onto a railing ahead. With a strong pull he swung forward rapidly. Toward the Church of the Hand. Back at Deadpool's apartment. A cold wind suddenly blew into the room. Deadpool shivered. Still half asleep, he frowned. Who opened the window? His eyes slowly opened. Then he froze. Standing on the windowsill bathed in moonlight was a figure dressed entirely in dark red. The person crouched lightly on the edge of the window. The wind blew the long hem of her modified ninja suit. The tight design perfectly emphasized her elegant yet dangerous figure. Two uniquely shaped weapons rested at her waist. Jit swords. Traditional Japanese ninja weapons. Short blades equipped with side prongs used specifically to trap and break enemy swords. Deadpool sat up slowly. He rubbed his eyes. Ketchup just left. And now MS. Ketchup has arrived. He tilted his head. Is wearing red the new fashion trend this year? Of course, Deadpool recognized her immediately. Daredevil's infamous ex-girlfriend. An assassin. An anti-hero. A woman who stood somewhere between good and evil. Elektra jumped silently into the room. Her voice was direct. Weasel told me you're capable. And that you accept commissions. Deadpool leaned forward. Depends on the price. Elektra spoke calmly. $50,000. Help me kill someone. Deadpool instantly sat upright. His eyes sparkled. Bullseye. Elektra paused. For a moment she wondered if those two criminals knew their lives were apparently only worth $50,000 to Deadpool. Part of her even felt tempted to let Deadpool kill both. But she quickly dismissed the idea. Her voice was cold. Daredevil. Deadpool blinked. He scratched his ear. Elektra stared at him. You know exactly who. She spoke his real name. Daredevil. Matt Murdock. Deadpool inhaled sharply. Hiss. He sighed dramatically. I told him. Ex-girlfriends always lead to bloodshed. Matt would definitely believe him now. Deadpool crossed his arms and spoke like a wise veteran. Listen, kid. It's normal for couples to break up. Then suddenly believe the other person is pure evil. And want to kill each other. But if you calm down and think about it, it's really not worth it. Deadpool nodded wisely. General MacArthur once said, women should keep their ex-boyfriends alive. With the title of ex-girlfriend bonus. You can always get a free hot meal when you're hungry. 150 plus chapters available in patreon.com/dragonscribe31. Chapter 65, Chapter 65. This makes me a little shy. 12-11 words. A sharp jit blade suddenly pressed against Deadpool's throat. Deadpool instantly stopped talking. He obediently raised both hands and gave a dramatic Rooster Country military salute. Today's daily achievement. Interrupt Deadpool's endless chatter. 1/1. For Elektra, the result was immediate. The world suddenly became peaceful. Blissfully quiet. She couldn't help wondering how had this man survived so long without being beaten to death. Even though Elektra had never seen the movie A Chinese Odyssey, she suddenly felt that if she were locked in a room with the Monkey King from that film, they would probably bond instantly over their shared suffering. They would complain about Deadpool for an entire day. Perhaps. After finishing Daredevil, she should kill this idiot too. That would save her the $50,000 commission fee. The jit blade, which had briefly moved away, pressed against Deadpool's throat again. The sharp tip sliced slightly into his skin. A thin line of blood appeared. Elektra narrowed her eyes. You know me? Her voice was cold. Deadpool looked relaxed. Of course I do. Matt talks about you all the time. Elektra's eyes sharpened slightly. Deadpool continued casually. He always says you're amazing. Fair skin. Beautiful face. Long legs. Curves in all the right places. Tiny waist. Perfect in every way. He tilted his head thoughtfully. Except maybe your temper. Elektra snorted coldly. She withdrew the blade. Then she hooked a chair with her leg and sat down. But when she turned back she noticed something. Deadpool was staring at her legs. Unblinking. Elektra's weak-colored legs were long, powerful, and flawless. Had enough. Her voice was icy. If not, I can dig out your eyes and stick them back in your hands. Then you can look forever. Deadpool coughed awkwardly. He reluctantly forced his gaze upward. To be honest, I wouldn't mind that. He scratched his head. Actually, it sounds a little tempting. But right now we should focus on the important business. Like killing Matt. Deadpool paused internally. Technically, if his eyes were removed, they would grow back anyway. But still, $50,000 was more important. And okay, maybe Matt's life was also slightly important. Deadpool stared at Elektra curiously. He tried very hard to keep his eyes from drifting downward again. The law of gravity was cruel. Why do you want to kill him all of a sudden? Deadpool asked. You two have been in a love-hate relationship for years. But hiring someone to kill him, that feels excessive. Elektra inhaled slowly, clearly trying to control her temper. This isn't just an assassination mission. Deadpool suddenly interrupted her. Before Elektra could react, he jumped off the sofa. Then ran into the kitchen. A few seconds later he returned with a bag of popcorn and a large cup of cola. He sat down comfortably. You may continue. Elektra stared at him. Her mind briefly went blank. How had this man not been beaten to death yet? Suppressing her rising irritation, she spoke quickly. This is simple. He kidnapped my daughter. Her eyes hardened. I need your help to rescue her. And then kill him. Deadpool had just placed a piece of popcorn into his mouth. That's it. Elektra nodded. That's it. Deadpool slowly placed the popcorn on the table. His face looked disappointed. This gossip is boring. Then suddenly his eyes widened. Daughter? Deadpool leaned forward slowly. Matt has a daughter. His eyes sparkled with curiosity. This gossip was incredible. He shoved a handful of popcorn into his mouth to calm down. Damn it, Matt. I thought we were brothers from different mothers. And you never told me this. Elektra folded her arms impatiently. Are you taking the mission or not? Deadpool sighed deeply. You don't understand. The Matt you want to kill. He is my closest friend. My brother. Elektra interrupted him immediately. 40,000. Deadpool instantly raised a hand. I'll take the job. Deadpool sighed. These two really are perfect for each other. They deal with me exactly the same way. He walked toward the bedroom. Don't misunderstand. I'm not greedy for money. Franklin is also my brother. I'm simply collecting portraits and relics of my brothers. Sentimental purposes. He paused at the door. Wait here. I'll change my equipment. The truth was Deadpool didn't want to change in front of Elektra. Not because of modesty, but because he feared the achievement called murdering Little Wade, which his system hadn't unlocked yet, might be completed right here by Elektra. Unexpectedly Elektra said coldly, change here. Deadpool froze. Then he shyly covered his face. Is that really appropriate? Elektra's patience was nearly gone. The reason she didn't allow him to leave the room was simple. She didn't fully trust Deadpool. If he left, he might secretly warn Daredevil. But she couldn't confront Daredevil alone either. Elektra knew how powerful Matt was. They had both been trained by Stick. If she failed to rescue her daughter and got captured instead, everything would be over. Her thoughts tangled together. Unease crept into her chest. Finally she sighed. Deadpool looked up. Don't sigh. Sighing causes aging. Especially women who have already given birth. Elektra immediately touched her face unconsciously. Deadpool smirked. A few minutes later Deadpool finished putting on his combat suit. 2 golden desert eagles hung proudly from his belt. Elektra stood up silently. Then walked toward the door. She turned back sharply. Her eyes glared like knives. I swear. I will cut out your tongue. Deadpool raised both hands. Just one last question. I promise. Deadpool clasped his hands together excitedly. His eyes sparkled. Are you two lovebirds? Family of 3. Playing some new and exciting game? Elektra's voice exploded. Deadpool continued eagerly. Then am I an important part of the game? Deadpool gasped dramatically. I'm starting to feel excited. Elektra nearly lost control. She should never have let him speak. Meanwhile, Chinatown. Inside the Church of the Hand. Massive figures in red robes rampaged through the crowd. They looked like living mummies. Their strength was terrifying. These creatures were the secret weapon of the Hand. Moments earlier, the church leader 10 Fingers had stolen power from the Hand. Before escaping, he had poured that power into ordinary believers. Then he gave one final order. Silence all witnesses. No one who saw his failure could be allowed to live. The fist began slaughtering everyone present. But suddenly a figure dropped from the upper floor. Blind spot. Midair he activated his suit. His body vanished instantly. The invisibility suit blended him perfectly into the surroundings. In a blink, he closed the distance. Blind Spot delivered a powerful kick to the monster's back. The impact echoed loudly. The fist stumbled forward several steps. It wasn't hurt. Not at all. The creature looked around wildly. But it couldn't see its attacker. Watching this, Blind Spot's heart sank. He knew exactly how strong that kick had been. Even the recoil had made his legs numb. Yet the monster seemed completely unharmed. Not a single injury. Blind Spot suddenly realized something terrifying. This battle was far beyond his level. 150+ chapters available in patreon.com/dragonscribe31. Chapter 66, Deadpool Death. What death? 1,293 words. Get to safety. I'll hold it off. Dust exploded into the air as the monster's fist smashed into the ground. Daredevil barely dodged the attack. His body moved on instinct alone, rolling away just before the blow landed. When he glanced back at the impact point, his heart skipped a beat. The floor had cracked open like shattered glass. Deep fractures spread outward across the ground. Cold sweat immediately ran down Daredevil's spine. If that punch had landed on him, his body would have shattered just like the stone floor. The monster roared. Come out, little rat. The creature known as the Fist swung its enormous chain scythe wildly. The heavy weapon sliced through the air again and again, tearing apart furniture, pillars, and walls as it swept through the room. It wasn't aiming carefully. It didn't need to. The fist simply destroyed everything. Daredevil ducked, rolled, and stumbled away, desperately trying not to make any sound. Because the moment he made noise the fist would find him instantly. He gritted his teeth. I hope Daredevil got the message. But even if Daredevil had received the alert, could Daredevil really handle this monster? Blind Spot didn't know. What made things worse was the invisibility suit. The advanced stealth technology consumed enormous amounts of energy. Blind Spot didn't have a miniature arc reactor like Iron Man. The battery packs he carried were powerful, but they wouldn't last forever. Once the suit ran out of energy, he would be forced to fight this monster without protection. And the fist was terrifying. It didn't feel pain. It didn't grow tired. It was stronger. And far more skilled in combat. Blind Spot clenched his fists. Matt was right. He had relied too much on the suit. If he possessed even half of Daredevil's combat ability, he wouldn't feel this helpless right now. At least, he wouldn't be completely powerless. Fortunately, something had gone right. Once the fist focused on Blind Spot, the ordinary believers in the church had successfully escaped into the underground safe room. But that didn't mean they were safe. Under Ten Fingers' command, several fanatical followers quietly drew their weapons. Their former comrades had witnessed Ten Fingers' failure. That meant they had to die. The church was descending into chaos. Suddenly whoosh. The chain scythe tore through the air again. Blind Spot barely avoided the strike. But when he landed crack. His foot stepped onto a broken tile. The tile shattered with a sharp sound. Blind Spot froze. Time seemed to stop. He could hear his own heart beating violently in his chest. The rush of blood in his ears sounded like thunder. For the monster, that tiny noise was like a signal flare in darkness. The fist slowly turned its head. Its hollow crimson eyes locked onto Blind Spot's position. A twisted smile spread across its face. "I found you, little rat." Without hesitation, its arm exploded forward with terrifying strength. The chain scythe shrieked through the air. The attack was faster than before. Far faster. Even before the blade reached him, the air pressure crushed toward Blind Spot like a wall. He could barely breathe. The scythe swung down. It was about to cut him in half. At that exact moment, Blind Spot's survival instincts took over. His body moved automatically. He threw himself sideways. The blade grazed the invisibility suit. A tearing sound echoed. The icy breath of death brushed across his spine. Blind Spot had never been this close to dying. Somewhere far away, a certain mercenary suddenly shouted, "Where's Death? Where's my girl Death?" Deadpool's voice echoed in his imagination. Blind Spot rolled across the ground and quickly stood up. But suddenly pain exploded through his waist. His body trembled. He looked down. A massive tear ran across the invisibility suit. Blood poured from the wound beneath. The suit's internal circuits had been damaged. The camouflage system flickered. Then it failed. Blind Spot's body became visible again in the dim hall. Luckily, he had installed short-circuit protection in the suit earlier. Otherwise, the battery surge could have electrocuted him instantly. But even so, his situation was desperate. That small piece of luck was like a candle flame in a hurricane. The fist laughed violently. "Rat skin. Tear it off. Tear it all off." Now that the invisible rat had been exposed, the fist attacked without mercy. The monster appeared in front of Blind Spot in an instant. Its scythe unleashed a storm of flashing blades. Daredevil's eyes widened. The attack sealed off every direction. There was nowhere to escape. Blind Spot forced himself to retreat, ignoring the agony in his waist. Blade after blade sliced through the air. Each dodge was a narrow escape. The wound on his waist reopened. Blood flowed faster. The wall behind him came closer. Then his back hit the wall. Blind Spot's heart sank. He was finished. The scythe descended toward his neck. Blind Spot could only raise his arms helplessly. The sound of a blade piercing flesh echoed. He felt no pain. Blind Spot slowly lowered his arms. Then he saw it. A katana blade had pierced straight through the fist from behind. Blind Spot stared in shock. His eyes followed the sword. Then he saw the person holding it. His voice trembled. The one who appeared was Lu Wei. A loyal believer of the Church of the Hand. One of 10 Fingers' empowered followers. and Blindspot's mother. But the moment of surprise lasted only a second. The monster moved again. The fist kicked Lu Wei brutally in the abdomen. The impact shook the air itself. Blindspot watched helplessly as his mother spat blood. Her body flew backward. She crashed through a wall. His eyes turned red. Before he could move, the scythe came down again. Suddenly a dark red figure burst into the room like lightning. 2 batons shot through the air. The cables wrapped around the monster's neck. The sudden pull dragged the fist backward. The deadly scythe stopped just inches from Blindspot's throat. Daredevil had arrived. Blindspot rolled away instantly, escaping death by a hair. Without hesitation he ran toward the ruins where his mother had fallen. As he passed Daredevil, the two exchanged a glance. No words were needed. Master and student understood each other perfectly. The fist roared furiously. Roar! Daredevil pulled the cables. The baton snapped back into his hands. He stepped forward, standing between Blindspot and the monster. His senses scanned the creature. Then his expression hardened. The fist. Unlike Blindspot, Daredevil recognized it immediately. The hand's secret weapon. A horrific creation requiring the sacrifice of hundreds of lives. The monster possessed superhuman strength and speed. But it wasn't truly alive. Destroying it wasn't murder. It was simply eliminating a weapon. Daredevil tightened his grip on his batons. The battle began. Meanwhile, Blindspot reached the rubble where Lu Wei lay. He knelt beside her quickly. Fortunately, she was still alive. The mysterious power granted by 10 Fingers was slowly healing her body. Relief washed over him. But the fight between Daredevil and the fist had already begun. Blindspot considered his situation. Without the invisibility suit, and with his injuries, he would only slow Daredevil down. He made a decision. He lifted his mother carefully, then ran toward the underground safe room. He needed to get her to safety first. But when he finally arrived, Blindspot stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes widened. Inside the underground chamber, hell had already begun. Bodies lay scattered everywhere. Blood stained the floor. The fanatical followers had slaughtered the refugees. The air was thick with the smell of death. Blindspot felt the world tilt. The nightmare had only just started. 150+ chapters available in patreon.com/dragonscribe31. Chapter 67, Chapter 67, If I Have Something Others Don't, Why Can't I Be Proud? 1360 words. Inside the Church of the Hand, chaos had erupted. The underground chamber was no longer a sanctuary. It had turned into a battlefield. Ordinary believers, terrified and confused, were forced to defend themselves with whatever they could grab. Broken table legs. Some even used the severed limbs of fallen companions as desperate weapons. The scene was horrific. Until their final moments, many of them could not understand what had happened. The people attacking them were the same leaders they had once trusted. The same my lords they had respected and worshipped. Why were those leaders suddenly slaughtering them like animals? No one could answer. Seeing the massacre, Blindspot clenched his teeth. He gently placed his injured mother in a corner of the room. Then he picked up her twin blades. The wound on his waist was still bleeding. But there was no time to worry about pain. Blindspot charged forward and intercepted the attackers. He blocked the path of 10 Fingers' loyal followers, preventing them from reaching the helpless civilians. Blood dripped steadily down his side. But he kept fighting. Meanwhile, 1 block away, a dirty yellow taxi moved slowly down the street. Inside the car, Elektra was visibly irritated. She glared sharply at the driver. "Can't you go any faster?" She had received intelligence earlier that the Hand would attack the Church of the Hand tonight. And she knew something else. Matt would definitely go there. He had recently taken a new apprentice. Matt would never abandon him. But if the taxi continued at this speed, by the time they arrived everything would already be over. The driver, DuPont, felt a chill run down his spine under her gaze. Yes, yes. He nervously stepped harder on the accelerator. The speed increased. From 35 kilometers per hour to 40 kilometers per hour, Electra stared at the speedometer. Her face slowly twisted into silent despair. She placed a hand over her face. She had made a terrible mistake. A truly terrible mistake. It would have been faster to hail any random car on the street than to wait 30 minutes for a taxi that drove slower than a bicycle. Deadpool glanced sideways at her expression. I bet you're thinking we should have just hailed another car. Electra snapped back irritably. Isn't that obvious? Deadpool shook his head calmly. His voice carried a strange pride. Besides DuPont. To this day, the number of taxi drivers who can drive me 10 kilometers straight, without kicking me out of the car can be counted on one hand. He paused thoughtfully. Frequently changing taxis would actually slow us down more. Unless you're trying to save a few dollars in fare. Deadpool spoke from experience. Most drivers kicked him out halfway through the trip. Some didn't even charge him. Instead they spat on the ground afterward. As a symbolic farewell. Electra stared at him in disbelief. You sound proud of that. Deadpool nodded. Of course. Electra frowned. Is that something to be proud of? Deadpool asked calmly. Can you do it? Absolutely not. Then there you go. Deadpool gave a proud thumbs up. If I have something others don't, why can't I be proud? Electra rubbed her temples. Her headache intensified. Without the driver's help, she probably would have kicked Deadpool out of the car already. Suddenly she felt a strange sympathy for DuPont. How many lifetimes of bad karma did this poor driver have to accumulate to encounter a passenger like Deadpool? But that sympathy lasted exactly 3 seconds. Because DuPont suddenly spoke. He glanced nervously in the rearview mirror. His eyes sparkled with curiosity. Who is this beautiful girl? Is she your girlfriend? He paused. She looks like she's pouting. Electra's sympathy vanished instantly. Her hand slipped. Her forehead hit the car window. She stared outside silently. She had made the worst decision of her life. She should have gone to Matt herself. Win or lose, she would have accepted the outcome. Instead, she had chosen Deadpool. This man, and every friend he knew, were all equally insane. Deadpool answered casually. She's the ex-girlfriend of one of my best friends. After the breakup, she couldn't move on. So now she's paying me $50,000 to accompany her and kill my best friend. DuPont inhaled sharply. Are all ex-girlfriends like that? His worldview began collapsing. He thought about his beloved Gita. What if someday they broke up? Would she hire an assassin to kill him? DuPont shivered. He would be heartbroken. Deadpool shook his head. Not all ex-girlfriends. He glanced at DuPont with mild pity. Your future ex-girlfriend, assuming you even get one, probably wouldn't do that. DuPont looked confused. Deadpool answered bluntly. Come on, buddy. Who would spend $50,000 to assassinate a taxi driver who can't even scrape together $200? DuPont paused. That's true. Then he relaxed. But somehow his chest still hurt a little. Meanwhile, inside the main hall of the Church of the Hand, the battle between Daredevil and the Fist raged fiercely. Matt was weaker. The Fist had superior strength, superior speed. But Matt possessed something else. Unbelievable reaction speed. His senses allowed him to predict attacks almost before they happened. Every strike from the fist was countered a moment early. This infuriated the monster. But the fist had its own advantage. It felt no pain. It never tired. Ordinary attacks meant nothing to it. Which meant the battle had reached a stalemate. Then suddenly Matt smiled. His senses detected something. Two familiar presences had arrived. Reinforcements. Deadpool and Elektra entered the hall. They immediately saw Daredevil fighting the monstrous fist. Deadpool drew his swords and prepared to charge. But Elektra grabbed his arm. Her voice was cold. "Who exactly are you planning to help?" Deadpool shrugged. "I'll help whoever you tell me to. But remember something. If Matt dies and your daughter isn't found, the $50,000 fee still applies." He added thoughtfully. "Of course, considering the emotional trauma of losing both your daughter and your ex-boyfriend. I can give you a 98% discount." Daredevil heard this conversation. He was completely confused. What daughter? What clues? Who were they planning to help? None of it made sense. But through the floor he could sense something worse. The underground battle. Blindspot's presence was weakening. He needed to go down immediately. He almost shouted for them to help Blindspot instead. But he hesitated. Both of them a ninja. And a mercenary. They would kill anyone they encountered. Matt understood practicality. But deep inside he still couldn't cross that line. Finally he shouted, "Help me stop him." His plan was simple. If they could hold the fist here he would go rescue Blindspot. The fist wasn't human. Destroying it wasn't murder. Elektra clenched her teeth. "Deal with the fist first." Deadpool saluted dramatically. "Yes, ma'am." He drew his twin swords and jumped into the battle. The pressure on Daredevil instantly dropped. Without hesitation, Matt ran toward the underground chamber. But whoosh! A kunai flew past his head. Matt stopped. Elektra stood in front of him. Her jit blocked his path. "Where do you think you're going?" "Elektra, move." Matt spoke urgently. "I have to save Blindspot. Tell me where my daughter is. Then I'll let you pass." Matt looked stunned. "Where did you even get a daughter from?" Elektra's eyes flashed dangerously. Without another word she attacked. Matt retreated helplessly. All right. I won't go. Let's kill the fist together first. Then Deadpool can rescue Blindspot." Elektra narrowed her eyes. She glanced toward Deadpool who was completely dominating the fist. She pointed downward. Deadpool stared at them. "Do I look like a babysitter? This is two separate jobs. Payment must increase." Elektra replied calmly. "Another 10,000. Deadpool kicked the fist square in the chest. The monster stumbled backward. Deadpool flipped away smoothly. Without another word he ran toward the underground chamber. Behind him Daredevil and Elektra exchanged a brief glance. Then they attacked together. The two former lovers moved with perfect coordination. The legendary husband and wife tag team combat had begun. 150+ chapters available in patreon.com/dragonscribe31. Chapter 68, Deadpool, I hate babysitting. 1340 words. The underground room was filled with the heavy smell of blood and sweat. Blindspot stood there, barely able to remain upright. His entire body trembled as he leaned on his katana for support. One hand pressed tightly against the deep wound on his waist while his breathing came out in rough, uneven gasps. Blood soaked through his clothes. Sweat dripped into the wound, sending waves of burning pain through his body. That pain was the only thing keeping him awake. If it stopped, he might collapse immediately. He was tired. So unbelievably tired. Every muscle in his body screamed for rest. A small voice in the back of his mind whispered that he should just lie down. Close his eyes. Let the darkness take him. But Blind Spot slowly turned his head. Behind him, a group of ordinary believers from the Church of the Hand huddled together in fear. They trembled, clutching broken furniture and makeshift weapons. They were looking at him. Waiting for him. Blind Spot tightened his grip on his sword. He couldn't fall yet. Not while they still needed him. His gaze drifted toward the staircase leading upward. A bitter smile appeared on his lips. He wondered how his teacher was doing upstairs. Was Daredevil still fighting? Or had the monster already killed him? Blind Spot shook his head weakly. The truth was simple. He was weak. Without the invisibility suit, he was almost useless. The realization stung more than the wound in his side. Across the room, the remaining loyal followers of 10 Fingers finished catching their breath. They raised their katanas again. Their eyes gleamed with cruel excitement. Clearly, they had decided to finish Blind Spot first before turning their blades on the helpless civilians behind him. Blind Spot knew what was coming. He could barely stand. But he stepped forward anyway. With a hoarse shout pulled from deep within his chest, Blind Spot charged. His injured leg dragged slightly behind him as he limped toward the cultists. Something about that reckless courage stirred the people behind him. Perhaps it was desperation. Perhaps it was hope. Or perhaps they simply understood that if Blind Spot died, they would die next. One by one, they picked up whatever weapons they could find. Broken sticks. Metal rods. And they rushed forward behind him. For one brief moment, the underground chamber filled with the fierce courage of people who had nothing left to lose. Then a calm voice sounded behind them. What passionate youth! The cultists froze. They turned around slowly. And saw only a flash of silver. From Blind Spot's perspective, a red figure burst into the underground room like lightning. Not Daredevil's dark crimson. This red was brighter. More theatrical. The figure crossed the room instantly. Steel flashed once. 3 times. The twin blades moved so fast they looked like streaks of light. Then heads began to fall. One after another. Before anyone even realized what was happening, every single cult loyalist had been beheaded. Not one survived. Deadpool flicked the blood from his swords and smoothly slid them back into their sheaths. The path to the upper floor was clear. The terrified believers wasted no time. They rushed toward the stairs in panic. Some paused briefly to bow deeply toward Deadpool and Blind Spot before running away, but most simply fled. Blind Spot stared at the bodies. Then he looked at Deadpool. You're Daredevil's ally? Deadpool shrugged. That depends on the contract terms. Blind Spot frowned. You shouldn't have killed them. They were deceived by 10 Fingers. With your strength, you could have subdued them. Deadpool blinked slowly. You know what? I should introduce you to someone. He tapped his chin thoughtfully. His name is Frank Castle. I promise he'd love this conversation. Blind Spot stubbornly continued. You still shouldn't kill people. They shouldn't die by your hand. Deadpool sighed deeply. Yes, yes, yes. They shouldn't die by my hand. Honestly, they probably shouldn't have even been born. Blind Spot opened his mouth to argue again. Deadpool stepped forward and pinched the back of his neck. Blind Spot's eyes rolled back instantly. He collapsed unconscious. Deadpool caught him before he hit the ground. Kids these days, he muttered. Always trying to lecture adults while bleeding to death. He quickly examined Blind Spot's injuries. But not fatal. The real problem was exhaustion. The boy had pushed himself far beyond his limit. Deadpool grabbed some medical supplies and wrapped the wound tightly to stop the bleeding. Nearby, Laura West still lay injured but breathing. Deadpool glanced between the unconscious blind spot and Laura West. Then he looked toward the staircase. His shoulders slumped. He grabbed one in each hand and began dragging them upstairs. Am I really becoming a babysitter? When Deadpool reached the main hall, he immediately saw the problem. The remains of the fist lay scattered nearby. Meanwhile, Elektra and Matt were fighting each other again. Deadpool stopped and blinked. He could hear Matt trying desperately to explain something while Elektra repeatedly shouted that she wasn't listening. Deadpool slapped his forehead. Of course. He had almost forgotten. These two had the amazing ability to turn any battlefield into relationship therapy. His grip slipped. Laura West hit the ground. Deadpool quickly bent down. Sorry. Didn't mean to drop you. He picked her up again and inspected her casually. Front armor looks sturdy. Should be fine. He laid Blind Spot and Laura West against the wall. Then he took a deep breath and shouted. Stop fighting, you two. It had absolutely no effect. Matt clearly didn't want to fight, but Elektra attacked relentlessly. Deadpool pulled out his swords. Then paused. Then sighed and put them away again. Too dangerous. In a chaotic brawl someone might grab one. So instead he threw the swords aside and drew his small dagger. He rubbed his temples. He truly hated this. He hated babysitting. At that moment Elektra thrust her sai toward Matt. Unfortunately, her aim was extremely personal. Matt felt a sudden chill. He jumped backward in panic. She was absolutely trying to destroy Mini-Matt. Deadpool's dagger struck from the side and knocked the sai away. He stepped between them. Big sister, that's a bit excessive. Maybe it's a little small. But we're not at mercy-killing levels yet. He pointed at Matt. Even if he kidnapped your daughter, that's the fault of the big head. The little head is innocent. Matt used the moment to retreat. Several fresh cuts appeared on his body. Elektra glared at Deadpool. $60,000. You don't want it anymore. Deadpool groaned. I want it. But not like this. He spread his hands. How about this? I offer $100 for both of you to sit down peacefully for 10 minutes and explain everything. Elektra replied instantly. $600,000 to cut off his arms and legs. Deadpool immediately stepped beside Elektra. Matt stared at him. Stop joking. Matt then threw his batons aside. He raised both hands and walked forward. If you really want to kill me, he said quietly, then do it. Deadpool clasped his hands and tilted his head. Oh my God. Perfect surrender pose. He's really good at it. Elektra ignored him. Her sigh rose. You think I won't? She charged forward. Matt didn't move. The blade stopped at his throat. For a long moment the weapon trembled. Then Elektra lowered it. Matt asked softly. Tell me about your daughter. You never mentioned her. Deadpool spat. Elektra suddenly collapsed to the floor. Her icy mask broke. Her eyes filled with tears. My daughter's name is Iona. She's 11 years old. Then she began explaining. Deadpool raised his hand like a student. Excuse me. He took a sip of cola and swallowed popcorn. Is this scumbag 6 feet tall, about 83 kilograms, a Columbia graduate, and blind? Silence fell over the room. Matt slowly turned his head. Why don't you just tell her my social security number too? 180 plus chapters available in patreon.com/dragonscribe31. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.